Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Nexuscast. I am the host Flarp, and with me this time I have Motobug,
Of course.
FlashingFire,
Hello, hello.
and Sabre.
Hey everyone.
Yep, this is it's episode 2, and the main topic this time is the newly released PMRank 2017.
Wow, it's so shiny and new.
Whoa.
Wow.
I really like number 45.
Oh, yeah? I wonder
Me
why.
too, dude.
I can't really say for certain. It's just pretty neat.
He's pretty attractive, I gotta say.
There's something about him.
I do really like how OS turned out this year, just presentation-wise. I think it looks sick. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the graphics. I was talking to someone about it. The same person who gave us that compliment about the globes, and he said, "Yeah, like I think he thinks the graphics are better than PGR and SSBM like this year," and I kind of agree.
let's go.
It's quite the compliment.
I'm really
So-
happy with how they turned out.
Yeah, props to Yada and Fingerstripes and Zesty and Kumatora. They were our graphic designers, so give them a shout out.
Yeah, massive
they did
props
some
to
good
them.
work, which I replicated on my Twitter. But slightly worse.
I got fooled for like at least half a second there.
Yeah, like, where's Donkey?
It reminds me of the time Donkey beat Thunder's Reign in Smash.
I'm so mad I didn't put Sky on there, the notable win.
It's the biggest missed opportunity.
It really
That would have
was.
been great.
uh,
It was
Alright.
pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So, you two, Sabre and FlashingFire, you were actually on the panel.
we were,
Sabre
yes.
was one of the main guys. So, any experiences with that you might want to relay
Oh
now
boy.
that it's all over?
A lot of it is still pretty confidential. Like we're not
Oh yeah.
really going to share specific things that people said or who was really on the panel and things like that, just because
Right.
that's stuff that we're all planning to keep private. It was interesting, especially this year. So unlike FlashingFire, who was a PMRank staff member both years, last year I joined the team as a panelist who was pretty new to kind of the whole process, and then ended up helping quite a bit with the data collection and the write-ups. And then this year, Strong Bad brought me on as a staff member, and so it was a very different experience for me, seeing it from the administrative end and trying to kind of get all of these panelists with different opinions and different views, with different degrees of how seriously they take PM rank, to all get ballots in on time and go through the data and kind of do all of the things that need to happen so we get that nice shiny PM rank that you guys got to see. Because there's a lot more that goes into it than probably meets the eye.
Yeah,
So definitely
it's,
different experience.
it's a whole different ballgame being a staff member.
Oh yeah.
Or in my case, I was the editor-in-chief this year, and so I was responsible for essentially how the final product ended up looking in most aspects. I went over every single write-up and made, in some cases, pretty extensive edits to things, and I was coordinating with writers and coordinating a bit with the Smashwords people, and making sure that everything looked pretty neat and tidy in the finished product. So yeah, it was essentially a part-time job for a week or two.
Yeah, I'd say the same as well. It was, and you put in way more hours than I think anyone else did at the end. You were,
Probably.
because I remember last year I didn't really think about the editing process. I remember, I wrote I think legitimately something like half the write-ups last year,
Yeah,
and I
there's
just
a
put
lot.
up drafts. Yeah, this year people stepped up, but last year I did a ton. But I just did drafts and then I left them, and I don't know, someone edited them. Magic happened, and they went on the site.
Wow,
This year,
magic.
This year, because I was staff, I ended up actually helping with that, and I was like, geez, there's so much more time that goes into it than just the writing. It's nuts. But yeah, no, you put in a crazy amount of work, especially on the top 10. So for the people who were wondering, oh, why don't they have a consistent release time? It's because we're doing this around school and kind of life, and we were doing last-minute edits up until the moment it went live, because that's how much work goes into these. So huge props to FlashingFire for all the editing work that made them, this year especially, there were very few edits, very few typos that needed to be done after it went live because of how extensively we were fact-checking. So
Yeah, I was about to
Definitely.
ask about the release times. I think that's something that could be improved next year, just
For sure.
having the articles ready beforehand.
yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't
This-
too bad. They weren't releasing at midnight or anything. But
But it was far from ideal. There are definitely improvements that we need to make so that next year we have them ready before the day of, so that we don't really have that issue and can put them up at a consistent time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that Meom Top 100 did really well. That I liked.
Yeah, I don't think
I have a
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I got a question.
What's
about
that?
the panelist process.
Okay.
If you'd be willing to share, what is the process of accepting someone into the whole accepting them as a panelist?
Yeah, I think we can talk about that a little bit.
We can talk about that. Yeah. Do you want to do it?
Sure. I'll start, and then you can chip in as you feel is necessary. So, to start, we send out the applications, and after a certain amount of time, we compile all the responses into sort of a spreadsheet, and we start to go over them as staff in like a group call. And so what we'll do is we'll examine the overall quality of the application. For example, this year, I believe there was a section toward the end where it's just a general kind of, why do you think you could be a good panelist? List some of your skills or talk about why you think you'd be a good fit for the job. And people that did not contribute, or people that did not put very many words in that section, generally didn't make it in. And it's like, that is a bit of an indicator of what kind of effort you're willing to put into being a panelist. Is just voicing your thoughts coherently in that manner. And so we looked at quality of that little blurb. There were people that we already knew to a certain extent would probably be a good fit, and then they applied, and so they were pretty readily accepted. And we also tried to take into account, we tried not to overlap too much with regional representation in the panel. There was, I guess it wasn't perfect, because the pool of applicants wasn't, evenly distributed among all the regions. So we were limited in a bit in our choices somewhat. But overall, the balance was pretty good. We definitely had people from both coasts and Midwest and Texas and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would say the only thing I'd really add to that is kind of, if you're someone who saw the people who were working on PMRank this year and went, oh, this is something that I think is interesting or that could be done better and that I want to be involved with next year, absolutely apply.
For sure.
There were points where I was looking at the applications and who had applied, and I was going, why aren't all these community leaders applying? And I understand why. PMRank is a time commitment. It's something that can be frustrating for a lot of people to talk with people that you disagree with about, I think this player is really good, and why are they getting so underrated by all these other panelists? And that can be really frustrating. But it's also, and I'd like to hear a little bit in a second from you, Flarp, actually, about what it means to be ranked, because a lot of why we do this is, it's also for the community, but part of it is that we want people who put in all this time and work to be a top player to get the recognition that they deserve. And so, if you're someone who really cares about seeing these rankings be accurate and be good, apply and make sure that your application is good, because we turn down people a lot because they applied with the bare minimum. They said, I'm decent and I can look at data. And what I think they were missing in those applications is that that's the baseline. Like, we're not going to accept someone who doesn't have the ability to look at data and form a ballot based on that, but we're looking for a lot more than that. And so I was really disappointed with a lot of the people who didn't apply this year because they just didn't feel that it was worth their time. Because I think we can see just based on the reaction to PMRank how much people care about it. And if people care about it that much, then it's something that should be worth the time of community leaders who want it to be accurate and want it to be something good for the scene. So I would say definitely I'd like to see more people applying and more people putting effort into those applications next year. Not that we didn't have an excellent applicant pool this year, but things can always be improved.
Yeah, so I think I've been rejected like 4 times now.
Yeah, I really.
I've been writing all this down at this point.
You've just been keeping track. You have all the emails saved.
I cry over them all the time.
I was talking to Sosa the other day. Apparently, he got rejected for the PMBR application. And he showed me. Apparently, he still has it in his inbox. The the PM backroom rejection email when I was living. But yeah, so if you want to, Flarp, if you want to talk for a little bit about that and kind of how it feels.
Also, just because you got rejected 4 times doesn't mean you won't be considered next time. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man. Being ranked, the entirety of my 2017 was being put towards getting on the PMRank, even if it was number 50. I was just like, every tournament I went to, I was thinking about it, which is not the right mindset, by the way. You shouldn't play like that. Constantly thinking about rankings is a very unhealthy mindset.
I would agree.
I confirm.
Yep.
Which led to some salty Flarp moments.
Salty Flarp, that's a phrase.
When I lost to some people that I knew wouldn't be on the top 50, it affected me a lot more than it probably should have. But seeing it work out, probably one of the highlights of my year.
Yeah, I was really excited to see your tweet when you were like, "What? It's not coming off." Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's the Ryan Lockwood reference.
Oh, I didn't get that reference, but yeah, I knew. I mean, just talking to you in here, like I knew how much you wanted to be ranked and like how much it meant to you. So it was very cool seeing you be on that initial list because we had the list like a month before it went live, and then kind of seeing it was kind of a struggle keeping everything secret, but I was very happy for you.
Yeah. First, it came out, and I scrolled all the way down, and I was like, oh god, I'm not like 47. They didn't put me on. And then I saw it, jumped out of my chair, ran across the room, said a few expletives. Then I got all happy.
Yeah. I will say that one of the most gratifying parts of having worked on this project is seeing like the expressions of like joy and excitement come out from people that get ranked and stuff. I love watching people share their graphics on Twitter and being excited about that whole process. That is definitely like one of the most deeply gratifying parts of working on this project is like seeing how that rewards people and how they respond to that. So
absolutely, I would second that.
And on the flip side, another big reason that this ranking is useful is that not everyone's satisfied with their ranking, and not everyone is satisfied with not being ranked. And so there's motivation, like you were sort of saying, to go to events to get on the rankings, and that promotes travel, that promotes just generally improving your mindset, your skills, interacting with the scene. It promotes a lot of things that generally benefit a competitive community. So that's another big reason we make it to make people feel happy, and we also make it to make people feel salty. So like I definitely saw a bit of discussion about that in the SoCal Facebook group, and a lot of the discussion was about, well, if we think we're so hot, we got to travel. And so I'm excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah, I think that was definitely, I saw that. I think it definitely played out most dramatically in SoCal, but I saw similar discussions in a lot of regions where they were saying, someone would post and they'd say, look, we had X players on PMRank, but we know that we can do better than this. We know that our good players can be ranked higher. We need to start traveling and stepping it up. And so I know a lot of people have been setting up plans to go to things like Smash and Splash, even bigger bulk, because they want to prove that they deserve to be on next year's top 50. So, and also, I definitely think that including that kind of Edge of Glory article, which we didn't do the year before, is definitely going to be a motivator for those sport people.
Yeah. Poor Ion. He was so close.
He was.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, because I think Aeon is an excellent case of someone where we understand as panelists that personally, if you ask someone based on your opinion, do you think he's a top 50 player, most of us might say yes. But at the same time, based on attendance and based on how you did it, the events that really mattered, sometimes you have to rank people in a place that you wouldn't personally agree with.
Yeah, he just didn't travel, and that's just all it was.
Yeah, I mean, he qualified on activity, but he had an interesting combination of poor losses and just general inconsistency. Because the thing is that I would say that for the 2016 rank, it was pretty clear that there was kind of a drop off in skill, and kind of you would have the people who were at the borderline of top 50 were pretty clearly below the people who were in the 30s and early 40s. This year it was close. Like, we had people, like, what, Flarp, you were 45, you had wins on Flip. Bongo was 43 and had wins on Flip. Like, everyone in top 50 had crazy good wins, and so it's not enough to just go to something and do okay. Like, you have to have those breakout performances, and you have to be consistent. And so no matter how good you are, like, you're never a safe bet for PMRank. So yeah, just all stuff to keep in mind for next year.
Yeah, I gotta go to like 12 majors and actually be a good player, and then I'll get ranked.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, because now your losses are going to mean a lot more, because now you're actually on that rank instead of someone who's trying to just beat people who were on it last year. So you're on the other side now.
Yeah, Flarp, you gotta keep your
man.
title.
No pressure or anything, but
At
lots
least
of
I did
pressure.
alright at least I did alright at WeTech.
I mean, if I come up to Mass and you lose to me, you're off the rank, kid. I'm the new
If you
opponent.
lose, if you lose to Moto, you're off the rank. I'll tell you that.
I'll agree
I'm
with
willing
that.
to
Hard
make that threat. Yeah,
I will agree with that. That's fair.
it's definitely a hard ban. The same rule applies to anyone on the West Coast if they lose to me. Dr. Grin is like permanently banned now from PMRank.
I have a question that I highly doubt you'll be able to answer.
Okay, have at it.
Confidentiality.
All right, let's see.
Would you be willing to say who was just past the Eggs of Glory article?
No.
No.
Aw.
People,
no.
I've gotten some DMs from people asking me, like, oh, who were the 477 on the ballot, things like that, and for as much as we'd like to recognize those people, because just being on the ballot is an accomplishment in and of itself, the point of having a top 50 is that you did something more than make it on the ballot. Like, you had to really go above and beyond, and so we want to keep it to just releasing those top 50 and then the people who were super close, because it makes it that much more of an accomplishment. So we'll be keeping all the other names private.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To be fair, it's not too difficult to think of who else it would have been
Yeah, I would say
if you really look at all the data.
you can
me.
probably go through a lot of the data and kind of figure out, oh, who had really good wins, who had breakout performances at an event that might have had them qualify via having a really high placement or something like that. So you could definitely piece together a fair bit of it, and we just won't really answer anything about that.
So, sorry to go a little backwards here, but the best part of being ranked, I'd say, for me, was when I called my dad afterwards to tell him about it. I was like, Dad, you won't believe it. I got ranked number 45th in the world. He was like, oh my god, I want to tell everyone I know about this.
Let's go.
That's awesome.
It's really heartwarming moment.
Your dad's so
yeah.
proud of you. You did it.
That makes me really happy when like family members like support people that are playing PM and stuff, because I know not everyone has that, and that's really valuable.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, that's one of the reasons why hashtag TechDad for PMRank 2018. But yeah, I definitely have a huge amount of respect for the parents and family members who come out to support people. Same deal with like Ghoulies' mom, like the people who really get into it and want to support their children. I think it's really cool.
Let's go, Ghoulies' mom.
Yeah, let's go.
Yep.
I was at Big Balk in person, and I was hands down one of the highlights of the event.
Oh man, I've heard legends.
Yeah, I don't know if I could ever bring my dad to a tournament.
You should.
That'd be pretty fun.
Just bring him to an SG weekly.
Well, it's more like an issue of, he has a cane and everything.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know about that.
Oh yeah.
My parents did make it out to at least one of my tournaments a little while back, so that's pretty cool.
My dad used to go to a lot of weeklies with me, but then he just started dropping me off. It was kind of bored. I was like, I understand.
That's
I know
fair,
I'm bad.
Wasn't going there, but okay.
Yeah, my parents have never, I think, been to an event in person, but I definitely will get texts sometimes from family members who like track down streams, and they'll like send me screenshots of me on stream, or Now they send me screenshots of if I'm on stream and stream chat is like, oh, is that Sabre? They send me pictures and they're like, look, you're famous. And it's like, I'm not.
You're famous.
I'm not famous
yes.
except to a very exclusive group of people.
You're
But
Smash
yes,
famous.
like
Oh, okay. This reminds me of something. It's slightly off topic, but
Yeah.
Alright.
my one time I was commentating in a stream, and this someone in chat makes a reference to one of our old dogs, whose name is Kia, and but I didn't know, like it was my mom, but her tag was Madre de Fuego. And I didn't pick up on it at first, and so I'm like, "What's going on? What is a Kia? Why do you seem to know me?" And then eventually, like, the gears started turning in my head. I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool. All right."
yeah, that's awesome.
That's quality. I like that.
My parents couldn't work a computer. I don't think. So,
All right, what else we got?
I got a question. If you
Go
can
ahead.
answer it.
Maybe.
What was the
you
voting
dare.
split between Malachi and Thunders? Because that's like you can see through like the pure rating, it's 0.01 away.
Yep, 9.99 versus 9.98.
Yeah, so Flaffy, am I able to answer this? Because there's kind of a funny story about this, but I'm not sure if I can say. Might as well get your thoughts.
Let's see. I guess could you clarify a bit what the question is? Like when you say voting count
Like a tally maybe.
of like the number of people who voted each
Yeah.
player 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like it's not personally identifiable, so that might be all right. Because people already know it's close.
Yeah.
So, Saber, do you have the spreadsheet up? Are you
I don't have the spreadsheet up, but I have it pretty much memorized.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
So
cool with
basically,
it.
excellent. So it was very close. It was actually much less close from round 1 of balloting, but round 2 of balloting, like you saw, obviously it was 9.99 to 9.98. I think every single
Score-wise.
panelist had them as 1 and 2. Like there was no question.
Yeah.
And the split was literally 8 to 8, because we had 16 people who submitted ballots. The difference. So I unintentionally made the difference. I voted. I'm completely fine with people being aware of this. I voted for Thunders. And on my initial ballot, I had the difference is literally 10 to, because your number 1 on the ballot should always be 10 out of 10. And it was 10 to 9.99 because I thought it was very close. Like it was, I spent hours deciding. And then I changed it to for round 2 balloting. I changed it to 9.95 because I thought about it and I was more confident in Thunders being first. So I felt like I could widen that gap a little bit, and that may or may not have made the difference math-wise. But it was very close. Like down to, it was a dead tie if you go by number of panelists. It was 8 to 8. It was incredibly close point-wise. So absolutely could have gone either way.
That's crazy.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, they are essentially both the best players in the world. They just, like, Thunders happen to have the slightest of edges by the technicality of the scoring systems.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was, especially to draw a parallel to 2016, a complete turnaround. Because if you look at the 2016 ballot, it was unanimous. Thunder's number 1. Like, if you looked at his average point, it was 10, because there was not a single person who had him as anything below 1. And then this year, these are the only 2 years that he'll have been on PMRank, and so he goes from 1 year being unanimous, and then the second year it's a dead tie. And then that's, I think, a really cool narrative to have, is that, you know, we have that complete change, and then he still came out number 1.
yeah. And something interesting I saw before the PMRank even came out was I noticed that, like, I was looking at the 2016 PMRank and was thinking, like, wait, there's gonna be like 20 people that won't be on the next one.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a ton of new faces, and it already makes me wonder who will pop up this year. We've already seen Ivane at We Tech Those.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gee.
And pre-Tech Those 3.
Yeah.
Doing incredible, looking like a PMRank 2018 contender already.
As well
Looking
as
like a
cashed
top
out.
20 player.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, just so far, just in January, I mean, wins on South, wins on Twisty, wins on Envy, wins on Pikmon, wins on the Doctor. My boy's going nuts.
Yeah.
It took a year, but Sosa and I were right, because we both called Ivan was going to be top 50 in 2017, with the notorious most underrated player in PM quote from Sosa. We were a year late, but we were right.
You got it.
Because he's new NorCal PR just released today, and I think I want to say 3. I'll pull it up right now.
See that.
Oh yeah, I'll read it out. Oh yeah, he's 3. Okay, so I'll read the top 5, which is really kind of the relevant part. Which is number 1 is Thunders, which will be the last PR for which he's ranked, and then number 2 is the Doctor. Number 3 is Ivan. Number 4 is Pikmon. Number 4 is Boiling Man. Number 5 is Pikmon. So Pikmon is ranked top. I think he was 26th in the world, 5th in NorCal. Boiling Man is 17, ranked 4th. You have Ivan at 3rd.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh my god.
It's pretty nuts. I still can't believe he died first against LZ.
Yeah,
That was so funny. It was one of those sets, and I've played those sets before, so I know how frustrating it is, where you feel like you won every game, and then you somehow got 3-0'd, and that's exactly what happened to Ivan in the funniest way possible.
Very, very, very brief recap for those of you who don't know what we're talking about. Ivan got like this sick comeback kill against LZ in like game 3 of their set or something like that. It cashed out.
Game 3 of Grands.
Yeah, and he hit 2 back airs off stage into a suicide flash, and somehow he died before LZ did, and it just baffles almost all explanation.
Yeah, LZ just SDI'd out of his mind.
Apparently.
That's how, like, he SDI'd so far back towards the stage that the knockback didn't send him far enough, fast enough for him to die before Ivan drifted off stage after the side B. Because Ivan basically let go of the controller. He popped off.
The flash hit in the magnifying glass. Like, what further confirmation are you looking for?
Yeah, exactly. And then SDI'd so far, he still died, but he died second.
It's crazy.
Game Watch is broken.
Game Watch is broken. Yeah. Ivan's free. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, that's just how it is.
But yeah, really looking forward to how Ivan does in 2018. Looking up for that.
Yeah, I'm excited. He's been needing a breakout for quite some time. Because he had, at the end of 2016, he got 9th at Rewired, and we were all really excited. He clutched a Game 5 versus Chevy, who had just beaten Envy, which was like a pretty big deal for NorCal. And then he had a pretty quiet 2017. So I think we're all pretty excited to see him really have that breakout, at least in singles. Because obviously in doubles, I think it's safe to say that now people know that AlkG is like a really scary team. They got 4th at Bigger Balk, which was a string of huge upsets for them. And now they're pretty solidly one of the best teams in the world. But I think in singles, they're still waiting for that breakout. And then Ivan really had it this month.
In terms of other PMRank 2018 candidates, I've already been on a little lookout. Besides Ivan, I've thought of maybe like Mr. Watch and Learn from New York, Game & Watch from New York, who had a few, maybe like 1 or 2 top 50 wins in 2017.
Yeah, he definitely had a share of top 50 wins.
Then like King Coney from Connecticut.
King Coney, definitely a possibility.
Has a huge drive to improve. I know.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Someone needs to take up the DK mantle now.
Yeah, exactly.
Nog, let's go Nog. It could happen. If he travels, I could see it.
The funny thing is, you're not wrong.
It upsets me, but you're not wrong. Shoutouts to Hyperflame, by the way, for saving PM.
Thank goodness.
I'm in a group chat with him because we're in TSC, which is a crew, and we're both in that. And he said in the group chat, like, his only motivation for pulling that losers run was just that he had to stop it. But yeah, so I think, let me see, because I've thought about a little bit, like, who I think is really going to jump on next year, and I think it's a safe bet. Aeon will probably be top 50 again, assuming he travels and does reasonably well. I think, let me see, Ivan, obviously, I think Bubbles actually from New York.
Yeah.
Watch and Learn is also an excellent candidate, but Bubbles has really been stepping up.
Who does Bubbles play?
Falcon.
Falcon. Okay.
He's, I want to say, 14 or 15 on New York's PR right now.
Yeah, he's close behind Bongo.
Yeah, he's very close to Bongo. Actually beat Bongo the same weekend that Bongo beat Flip. He beat Flip in pools, and then winners round one lost Falcon Ditto to Bubbles. So Bubbles, super capable player. I think definitely he did well at Fair Balanced as well. So definitely someone to be on the lookout for in 2018.
I played him at Blacklisted 3, and I think the quote that describes our set is "I won," and then Kunai walked up behind me and he was like, "How did you win that? There's no way you should have won that."
Yeah.
Because he watched, and I got so many things that shouldn't have worked because we were all the spaghetti was flying out of our noses, it was getting on our controllers.
Yeah, I mean
That's
Luigi,
a new phrase.
Luigi thrives on spaghetti, so whatever works.
He eats the super spaghetti.
He just
sauce.
lassoed him with a strand of spaghetti and just threw him off stage.
Luigi makes me mad with how well he deals with scramble situations, but
Yeah,
anyway, that's not
it's
even on
slightly
there.
upsetting. I have a terrible record against Luigi. Before I forget, one more person to shout out for that I would say is a favorite for next year's PMRank is Ellipsis. He's a Michigan
Yes,
Game
he's
&
on
Watch
the
Sort
player.
of flew under the radar.
He super flew under the radar. I think probably half the people watching this podcast are wondering who's Ellipsis. But him and Drug Free Chew are both Game & Watch players from the Midwest. Both of them have excellent wins in 2016 or 2017. I'm running out of years. Both of them had excellent records and really strong head-to-heads, and I would expect them to both to be strong contenders for 2018. So keep an eye out for both of them.
So speaking of new people, Moto, didn't you have a question about like expanding the
I did.
top 50?
Oh yeah.
I was wondering
I did.
if
Oh yeah, there it is.
if we get enough new people that are actually skilled, and as more people come in, like we already see our tournaments like Smash Splash over 100 entrants, and it's like 5 months away. Could we get a top 100 next year to match up with Melee?
Okay. So I've thought about this a fair bit, both just kind of personally, and then also once you ask the question in to kind of give us the questions in advance, I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. I don't think it's feasible right now for two reasons. And this isn't to say that those two reasons couldn't change in the future. The first is lack of data. We had enough data this year to get through an entire top 50, and we had that much for 2016 as well, because we had the top players more or less traveling and competing with each other, but at the same time we don't have as nearly as much data as we'd like. If you go pull up that spreadsheet that Yada posted on Reddit, he had the entire head-to-head spread for the top 50 against each other, and there's still way too many blank spaces. There are way too many people who have never played, people who haven't really traveled enough, and so we don't know how they do against people from the other coast. And so I think for right now, we just don't have enough data to get to a top 100 on a personal level. As one of the people who probably spent some of the most time looking at the data, I would say the two of us. And at least for me, I think once you get past maybe 70 on the ballot, anything after that becomes speculation because you just don't have enough data.
And brief point on when you say data, you mean the data from the events that we collected. Like, not every local counted.
Yeah, also that's an important thing is that, like just because you're going to locals, if you beat, like Flarp could, not Flarp, because you guys aren't from the same state, I don't know. King Coney, for example, is someone who's an up-and-comer who could be on the PMRank 2018. He could go to a local and he could beat Flip. And unless there were out-of-region players at that local, or there was some other reason for us to care about it, locals don't matter. And that was something that was brought up for Aeon as well, is, he's been beating Sosa at locals, they're taking sets from him, and that's a pretty big deal, because no one in SoCal can really do that. But they're locals, you're just SoCal there. So you really have to be going out to big events with out-of-region players, you need to be traveling out of region, and getting data at events that we're going to care about.
Yeah, that makes
What
sense.
about
Just overall, it's not many people who travel consistently.
Yeah. And then the other...
Right, the second reason?
Oh, the other reason is logistics. On a personal level, as someone who is on the staff, so for those who don't know, there were 5 PMRank staff members this year. There was myself, there was FlashingFire, there was Reslived, there was Yada, and there was Strongbad. We will be working with 3 of those 5 next year, because Yada, for those of you who don't know, is stepping away from the Project M scene. Strongbad has been, for the last year or so, preparing the other members of the PMRank staff to take over the project, because he'll be more or less stepping back from it as well. And so we're going to have less staff to work with, and it's a massive amount of work for people who do this as a hobby to get through a top 50, to do the ballots, to do the write-ups, the graphics. It's still taking me forever to make the combo video. It's just a lot of effort for people who are doing this really as something that's a passion project, whereas you compare it to, like, you know, Tapo gets paid for this, Swallow gets paid for this, and it's a lot of time and effort. And so I think just from a logistical perspective, we worked really hard this year to make sure that the rankings not only came out high quality, but they came out really fast after 2017 ended. One of the things that we really disliked about our 2016 rankings was that they came out, I want to say late February.
I think maybe even March.
Might have been March,
pretty
yeah.
late.
Yeah.
But it was 2 or 3 months later, and so this year we finished balloting, like, I want to say like January 2nd, and we started on the write-ups right after that, and it still took us 3 weeks to do 50. And so I think just for a team of, you know, unpaid volunteers and people who are doing this around school and life and everything else we do in PM, because that isn't the only thing we do. Obviously, I'm involved with Nexus and things like that.
Yeah, Sabre is so much.
I need sleep. But the point of this is, it's logistically speaking, I think it would massively become more difficult on our end to do a top 100, even if we had the data. And not to say that it's impossible at all, but I think it would be something that is a far more down the road goal. Once the scene grows, and once we have more people who are both qualified and deserve to be on the rankings, and also more people who are interested in working with PMRank staff, so that less of the workload is on the staff members.
Yeah, and if I might add just a little bit to that, PGR did a just top 50 again, right?
Yeah.
That's what they do?
Yeah,
Okay.
they did.
I was going to mention that too.
Yeah,
Because
and-
as big as that game is, they're still only doing 50.
Right. So
Yeah, because they're in a very similar boat where, I mean, you get people coming out to the 2GGs, but they really don't have... They have a lot of people who will go out to 1 or 2 events, and they have to deal with, you know, how do you rank someone who does very well at 2 events versus someone who does, you know, okay at 5.
yeah, or like people
So-
from Japan, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's in a whole other dimension.
Yeah, ranking, I mean, that's always super difficult. We dealt with that in 2016. We had to rank EU players. This year, we didn't have any non-North American players ranked, although we did have people from the EU and actually from Japan who competed in big events. We had some Japanese players come over to Blacklisted. We had some EU players coming out to stuff, but nobody qualified for this year's rankings. But yeah, it's super difficult dealing with how do you rank international players who don't have that many chances. So it's hard.
Yeah. I can definitely see it being pretty hard to tally up all this data, compile it, work with other people, and try to get it out in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can, you can imagine that as the rankings get lower, they get a little less certain, you know, because the quality of the data, the quality of the data is just not there, because like as people get more consistently later in the bracket, they'll play the same people over and over, and you get a better idea of like who actually tends to win these head-to-heads, as opposed to like, oh, this player took 1 set off this guy, this is what we have to go off of. And so you'll get different opinions from different panelists about how those wins should be weighed and evaluated, and that problem would just multiply like exponentially as you get further and further and further down into a potential top 100. So
Yeah, even at like the lower top 50 level, we had to look at players who... A lot of players on the lower top 50 were kind of defined by who their best wins were, who they were able to beat, things like that. And so you had a lot of discussion about how much do you weight this win versus that win, or this degree of consistency versus that. And so when you have people who don't make it consistently very far in the bracket, they just have less data points, and it comes down to deciding what's important to you as someone submitting a ballot. And so it gets a lot more subjective the further down you go.
Alright, yeah. And I got one more question before we get to Q&A.
Okay.
For both you and FlashingFire, who were people who were higher or lower than you expected personally?
Oh, that's a funny question. Because let me see if I can find it. I actually do a ballot. I've done this both years. I do a ballot just personally based off my opinions before I look at any data, and then I like exactly
the real ballot.
And then I
can show you all my top.
I like trying to compare it and just see.
Sorry, people don't know this, but we actually, our top 50 ranking is actually just Sabre's opinion. So.
It is.
I knew it. That's why I'm not on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm low key. I'm actually from New York, so hella East Coast bias. But yeah, 100% my opinions. Nobody argues with me. They all just get out of my way, and they're like, "Yeah, Sable's right." I've never been in an argument in the PMRank channel. Flaffy can confirm.
Silence.
Absolutely not how it goes. I get in way too many arguments. I don't seem to be able to find my old ballot, but I can find my round 2 ballot and just kind of see from there.
Yeah, so Sabre does do the thing where he first just ranks by opinion and then does his thing with the data and then figures out how wrong he was. And I attempted to do something similar, and I didn't quite do it as thoroughly, but I know that I tended to slightly overrate SoCal players when I was first balloting, and so I was a little surprised at how low I guess J Falls ended up being, just personally. And then I think that was the main one where, like, after discussion happened, we were like, okay, I guess this is more accurate for a placing for him given the data and given his level of travel. Whereas
I would agree with that. I would say it was a similar thing, because I think when you go based on opinion, oddly enough, given how things turned out, I would say that the biggest thing is that, I overrated on my initial ballot people like Aeon and J Falls, because, and even people like Blank and Jose, who were ranked, but maybe not ranked as high as maybe other people would have expected. And part of that is due to exposure bias. SoCal PM is the most watched scene. They have the most watched locals, they have the most followed YouTube channel, like, they have a ton of exposure bias. And then I went through the data, and there were all these people who I knew were quite good, but didn't realize quite how good they were. So people like Stereo and Bacon Pancakes, Boyko super surprised me.
I don't think I had watched a single set with Mask in it all year. You know?
Oh, I knew Mask was good, but I didn't realize he had DVD and stereo wins. But yeah, there were just a bunch of people where, I kind of overrated SoCal a little bit, and then definitely underrated some people from the East Coast, because there was just some exposure bias. I didn't quite realize. And also, same deal with, I want to specifically point out a couple people who did get ranked, but they got ranked in a weird place that you might not expect as someone who casually follows the scene. More specifically, Kais and Twisty. Twisty was not top 20, Kais was 17, which I think is lower than a lot of people would have expected.
Wait, was he 17?
Kais was 12.
Yeah.
Oh, no, my bad.
Borgman was 17.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Kais was 12? Okay.
He was 12.
He's looking at PMRank 2018.
I might have been looking at... oh, no, that was something else. I don't know why I have that. That was, one of the old collected ballots. But yeah, so basically they both ended up still, I would say, lower than people would have expected, because one of the bigger things is that you pay attention to someone's highs. So if you think about Twisty, the first thing that comes to mind might be he beat Thunders, he beat Fuzz, and he got third at Low Tier City.
And he's beaten Flip.
He has a 3-0 record on Flip or something. He has a very good record on Flip. But yeah, so you think about the highs, and so players like that tended to get ranked lower than a lot of people expected, because of the fact that if you look at their data, you go, oh, they've lost to all these players that you don't really realize they've lost to. And so once you look at the data, there's a whole nother level of data from regionals, and just a whole bunch of things that you don't really realize, and so your perceptions are often really inaccurate with how things actually are, because you pay attention to the things that are most talked about, which are regions that are highly followed, events that have a lot of hype behind them where you're following the bracket, things like that. So
yeah, and I do recall when I was going through and editing a few of these kinds of write-ups, I would look at it and I would think, okay, like based on what we have in here, like this gives the impression that this player should be rated than they actually are. So I would have to actually add some of the losses that those players had to contextualize why they ended up in the rank that they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you definitely have players where, like, there were some players who were pretty consistent, and, like, you can see why they ended up where they were. Shout out to the Emu Killer getting 9th at everything ever. But, so, like, Emu is pretty easy to rank because he's consistent. Like, he doesn't really get upset. We know where he's going to place most of the time. It's always going to be 9th, spoiler alert. So, like, he's pretty consistent to rank. And then you have people like Twisty or Kais where, you know, on the one hand, Twisty's peaks are incredible. He beats Thunders, he beats Flip, he beats Fuzz, he gets 3rd at one of the biggest nationals of the year. And then on the other hand, he has some really bad records.
And so lost to me.
Yeah, see, that's a problem. That brought him down a couple places by itself. He didn't even lose the set, but, like, just the fact that it was close brought him down at least 5 spots in my ballot.
I think that the precedent that we've set is that if you lose to Motobug, you're banned from the ranking, so...
Yeah, that is... I can confirm that is the precedent.
It's a pretty close one for him.
Yeah, I'm coming for you, Flarp. Taking your spot.
That also applies retroactively. Flarp, if you lose to him, then that's coming... You said it's not coming off. It's coming off.
Anyway,
you were saying that you were ranking some, like, you had some maybe West Coast bias on some level, maybe.
Yeah.
But I had like the opposite thing, if I may go into the Flarp PR.
Oh no.
I actually had the Doctor about like 20 or 15 spots below where he ended up being.
Yeah, I kind of. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I looked at your list, the first thing that stood out to me is like, do you just not know who Kevin is? Like he's. Like I honestly still think he got a little bit underrated, although he didn't. There were a lot of sets that were very close and would have put him, I think, blatantly higher that he choked. But yeah, I mean Sosa, he had a number of close sets with Fuzz. There were just a lot of sets. South as well. That went game 5 last stock. Things like that maybe would have made a difference. But yeah, I saw you had him in like the 40s, and I was like, what?
Yeah, he's at number 40 on mine.
Yeah, that was painful. I wasn't a fan of that.
I still think, hot take here, Gallo is better than him.
I would heavily disagree, but we'll see, because we'll see in 2018.
Money match.
I had Lod at number 21.
Lod was weird to rank.
Yeah, Lod was surprising.
Yeah, I didn't expect Lod to be anywhere near as high as he was when I did kind of my initial opinion ballot. And his results were surprising. He had good wins. Was pretty consistent. But I definitely get people saying, like, oh, you know, why is he so high? And we'll see where he ends up next year. I think that if he keeps coming out to things and he keeps traveling, because he definitely had somewhat limited data this year. So maybe next year as more data fleshes out his results, we'll see, you know, should he be top 12? And we'll see what happens.
But the one I objected with the most was Soth being in top 10, personally.
Really?
Okay.
Did anyone else in the panel? Was it more unanimous in the panel that he was top 10?
It started off being. I'd assume, Flappy, you'd assume this is okay talking about, right? Because we're not.
The top 10 discussion was relatively. Like, people differed on what order the top 10 or 11 players were, but, like, generally speaking, people had a good idea of who those players were in that range.
Yeah. Originally, like, when we first started, a lot of people had very differing opinions. There's a lot of people who were like, oh, maybe Twisty or Kais or Fresh. And then, actually, over time, I think as we looked at the data, it definitely kind of settled down to a very clear tiering, I would say, within the top 11, where, like, we kind of knew, you know, there might be some variance in how things turned out, like, on the final ranking between, say, the players in the 4, 5, 6 range, but we knew who was going to be 4, 5, 6. We knew who was going to be 10 and 11, things like that. So, yeah, I would say over time it became pretty consensus. Whether you think, like, skill level-wise he's 10th is completely up to you. But looking at his data, he was surprisingly consistent. he very rarely lost to people worse than him. He pretty much did everything he was supposed to, but he also didn't really have that many wins over the top 10. He only had the one on Hyper, and then a whole bunch of close sets that he never won. So he seemed like the right pick, at least personally. He seemed like the right pick because he was just that gatekeeper. Like, nobody ranked below him was really beating him, but he also wasn't really getting those wins above him. So
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely
he's closer
was...
to LOD than he is in DVD in terms of just like raw like score.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think DVD is where like the top level starts.
Yeah, I would say that the debate, to put it more broadly, I would say that the debate was over who was 10th. Because there was more or less a consensus in some order of who the top 9 was, and then the discussion began like 10 through 20, like who gets ordered in that range. But I would say that more or less it was pretty solidified in some order who the top 9 was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
For my placings that I like disagree with, I mean I understand where I understand that why they are there, but J-Fist I think was a little low, but that might just be Sonic bias and Florida bias and a lot of bias.
It might be.
Dirt Boy, but
Shout
I
out to-
didn't really
oh.
like.
While I'm talking to you, Moto, I want to give a shout out Boiling Man Best Sonic on PMRank.
He is, yeah. I mean, he's just a good player. He doesn't play Sonic. He plays Boring Man.
You could say that for everyone, though.
Now, Boring Man does it more. Like,
No,
watching
he's-
his Sonic, he's so much more different than every other Sonic.
I feel like
Crazy.
I feel like if I watch any Sonic, though, like, they all have their own style. I would disagree with that, but that's, I guess, personal opinion.
I mean, I don't know. We can get into that later. But Dirt Boy, I think I didn't really look at him this year. If I'm being honest, I don't really remember all the things he went to and where he placed. But I was a little surprised to see him at 22. And then Answer, I only remember Bigger Bout, but it was obviously a very good performance. But I don't remember what else he went to. So it's mostly just like me not paying attention.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there where, like, it's,
Yeah.
Players you don't go to much and, you don't really remember what they did through the whole year. Because a year is a long time to keep track of someone's results and remember all that. So I'm sure there was a lot of things that were surprising to people. And then if you go back and look at the data, it might, it starts to make a little more sense.
Yeah, some people just aren't as aware of certain other regions, and that's not necessarily through any fault of their own. They're just not trying to assemble a top 50 ranking for the whole year,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, so like you mentioned 2 Midwest players, so I guess maybe you just didn't happen to see as many Midwest events,
Yeah.
which isn't entirely awful. It's one of the ways that we accrue bias. So
Yeah.
something
Speaking
to
of
keep in
crew
mind.
bias, TKB on PM Rank, best crew.
TKB.
Loyal. Let's go Loyal. The Crump Bunch.
He doesn't even know what
Oh,
it is.
I actually don't.
We have
Wait, Joe, you guys aren't the best crew. Pwem has like 5 members.
no shush. We're best crew. I mean, Weasel should have been ranked on Project M Rank. He's number 1 in Australia. Should have been ranked easy.
Wait, who?
The Neth main.
Oh, Brib.
Weasel.
Let's go,
Yeah,
Brib.
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 Number 0
Rysel,
in
because
NorCal.
yeah, he's number 0 in NorCal. Better than Thomas, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout outs to Brib. Super
If he
homie.
actually comes over to the US and like performs really good, I could actually see him getting ranked because he's super good.
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical after playing. I played a little bit at least with Star. At big.
No, there's a big.
No, I'm
skill
aware
gap
that there's a
between
big
them.
skill difference. But I'm always a little skeptical when like people outside of North America come to the US. Just because historically, like, and we've seen people like Sharby. There was a huge discussion after PMRank 2016 where the EU players were like, oh, we think that anyone on like our top 10 would be PMRank, and then they came over for Bigger Bout, and we saw how that went. So I'm always a little bit skeptical, but I've watched their VODs. I know Rysel's a super good player, so nothing would surprise me, and I would definitely like to see him do well. Nothing but respect for that guy. So
Yeah, he's great. I love him. Love his work. Big fan.
big fan.
But, I guess we should get to the Q&A now if we don't have anything else to say.
We're
on
like
PM Rank.
we're an hour in at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a little
about
bit of that
that?
was ramble, but
A little bit. So
do you wanna
you
ask these
guys,
for it?
the audience, submitted your questions to us through YouTube comments on the last podcast episode and through
Twitter.
a tweet made on @ProjectDevNexus on Twitter.
Yep.
And I've picked out some of the some of the good questions, if there's any way.
No offense intended to the
not
people
putting
whose
it that way.
questions I'm
If
not
you did submit a
answering.
question, I super appreciated it.
Yeah,
But,
please do continue to submit questions. Even if there aren't always, I'll be answering a fair number of them just because I'm one of the admin for PM Nexus, so anything really related to the channel in general is kind of in my wheelhouse. But even if they don't always have an admin on the podcast like last week, we always want to hear your questions, and we'll always do our best to answer them as much as we can.
Yeah, so first up, from @MrNG99 on Twitter.
Okay.
Will you guys allow other YouTubers who create Project M content to upload series or funny moments to the Project M Nexus YouTube channel?
Okay. So I've been actually asked about this a fair bit from people who have reached out to me and said, "Oh, if I make this video, would you put it on Nexus?" And the answer is pretty much always a maybe, because it's a case by case. We recognize that Nexus has some of the biggest reach of any PM channel right now. We're already over, I think, 2,100 subs, which is nuts. So we're still less followed than something like SoCal PM or the Legacy channel or Clash Tournaments, but a pretty big following, especially given that we've only been around for less than a month. And we'll definitely use that to support and give reach to videos that we think are high enough quality to be on the channel. So, for example, Pikmon reached out to me asking if he made a video going over him versus Els that cashed out and going over kind of the way that they use high-level counterplay like SDI to get out of Game & Watch combos and things like that. And I said, yeah, if you make that and it sounds like an informative video and it's well made, then absolutely we'd put it on Nexus and help give it a wider audience. So that goes for the series part. For the funny moments, probably not. Personally, I'm of the stance that videos like that tend to belong on a personal channel, which is why a lot of the videos that I make will still remain on my personal channel. Same deal with Shikaka, and pretty much any of the other.
Yeah,
Moto, Echo, like really all of us are content creators in our own right, and for the most part, our professional level content goes on the Nexus channel, and our kind of funny or personal content goes on our own channels, because we're trying to keep this standard of professionalism with Nexus. That's not to say that
consider it.
Like, not every video has to be like super serious and informative, but things like funny moment montages and stuff like that are not really what we're looking for. So it's situational is kind of the answer. Never hesitate to reach out to. You can reach out to me on Twitter. You can reach out to the Nexus Twitter, which is run by like me and 2 other people, and we'll watch it and we'll get back to you. But it's going to be situational whether or not we allow other content creators to put things on the Nexus channel.
Yeah, so like I would not expect my Arcadian highlight and lowlight reel to make it onto Nexus, for example.
That was a good video, by the way.
It was
Nice
fantastic.
It was so great.
Like that. I highly recommend. Do you want to like tell them the name and the channel that it was on, because people really need to see that, even if it's not something we'd put on.
We'll put it in the description.
Yeah, it's just on my personal channel. It's probably the last video I uploaded, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Highly recommend it. It's fantastic.
it is a fun one to watch.
In general, if you wanna be on PM Nexus, get your Windows Movie Maker ready, because you have a chance.
Yeah.
Get the rainbow filter going.
There was a Humble Bundle recently where I got Sony Vegas Pro 14 for like $20.
I got that too.
Yeah.
So sick.
I saw that and I was like, dang, like that's nuts.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I told a few other people about it.
And even if you don't consider yourself like a video editor, personally, I don't consider myself a video editor. Like, if you look at all of the videos I've ever made, like, I don't use fancy effects or anything. We have incredibly talented people on our staff who can do that. And we're definitely super spoiled by them, but, like, we need people who can do anything. So we'll be putting out staff applications whenever I finish the top 50 combo video and the recap, because I have no time. But once I have time to do that, we're going to be putting out applications, and we need people to do everything. Like, even if it's just, watching VODs whenever you have time and finding clips of something relevant that we can use as background footage or an example. like really, there's so much stuff. Watching through Why My Main is Sick videos and helping us clip highlights for a new series that'll be coming out called 5 Minute Main. Like, there's so much stuff at any level of involvement that we need help with. So even if you're not a video editor, like, be on the lookout if you want to be involved.
Right. So, moving on. Next question. I combined 2 questions here.
Okay.
That we're sort of asking the same thing. From Richard Booster 7 at Richard Booster 7. Will Nexus be an actual version of Project M? And from at Rye Steven 12. Will you guys make a Nexus tournament build? This has actually been discussed way back, I think.
This has been discussed quite a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are 2 different questions because I'm going to assume that the first question is referring to a version of Project M that is not just like aesthetically changed from PM 3.6. The answer to that is no. Nexus is not and never will be something like Legacy XP where we're actively changing the game or adding characters or making character balance changes or anything like that. We'll always be using kind of the tournament standard, which is Vanilla 3.6. So that's, pretty clear answer to that one. A Nexus tournament build is a lot more on the table. For those of you who have seen some of our videos so far, like the intro video, we have Nexus built, like custom Nexus stages that have been made. I think right now we have versions of the training stage, which is absolutely beautiful, and then Pokemon Stadium 2 and Warrior Land. And then we actually recently just got contacted by someone who, not someone, I know him, it's Pyro, who reached out to us with Nexus-made versions of F Final Destination and Battlefield. So we are putting together a tournament build, ideally also with a upgraded version of Training Stage with a lot more useful trading tools. But that's going to take quite a while to release. We haven't really decided how big of a priority that'll be for us, so if we're going to release it in pieces and then the whole thing, or just wait until we have the whole thing. But at some point or another, yeah, we'll be releasing all that stuff. There'll probably be a build for it, so be on the lookout for that. It'll be at some point in the inevitable future. I don't know.
And speaking of adding characters,
boy.
Only one question for me. If Knuckles, Lynn, and Isaac were finished, could they be added tournament? Says ask Justin Stewart on YouTube.
Okay.
You're really excited about this one, Moto.
Yeah, Moto, we've had this discussion a number of times. So I'm going to give my answer, and I want to be really kind of give a disclaimer up front about this. I'm not giving this answer as a representative of Project M Nexus as an organization. I'm not giving this answer as a standing member of the PM backroom or anything like that. Like, this is just my personal opinion. For me, it's a no. Even if they were finished and like balanced and all of that, I would still say no, because at a fundamental level, like from conversations that I've had with members of the PM development team, it would be risky to them to change the build in any way, and then include getting those characters even if they weren't involved with it. And so, regardless of what I want as a competitor, whether I think it would be fun or interesting or what have you, as a person, I couldn't condone or support doing that. So that's my answer, and that'll be reflected in anything that I personally do. Again, I can't speak for the entirety of PM Nexus or the backroom or anything like that, but that would be my answer. Flaffy, if you want to give input on this as well, feel free.
I don't think I really have anything else to add. It's sort of the same deal. Like, we respect the people that helped develop the game, and that's kind of the ultimate factor.
Yeah. Like
I think that if the star of the line and everyone who worked on Project M and those characters gave the approval, like the seal of approval, then yes. But otherwise, I doubt it.
Yeah, that's more or less my approach. Like, if you would have, like, the entire PM, not even the entire, but, like, pretty much any PMDT member who is still involved with the community or, like, would be willing to answer the question, be like, yes, we're fine with this, like, this doesn't impact us in any way, then I would be willing to evaluate it, like, depending on what I thought of the characters and how they would impact the meta and things like that. But having talked to some of them, like, I've heard enough, at the very least, that it's off the table for me. And that's all I'll really say. But yeah, so that's my answer.
And last question, and the last thing for the podcast today. Are you allowed to stream PM on Twitch? I hear mixed things about how you can but can't make money on it, or you can't at all, etc. From at UFO FGC on Twitter.
Yeah, Chibo talked about this a little bit in the last podcast when he was talking about YouTube gaming and all the streaming services available for PM right now. It's sort of a gray area a little bit.
Isn't
Yeah,
always.
So, PM lives in a gray area. That's basically the definition of the game. So we're really getting into the legality type stuff today. Dang. So basically, the deal with Twitch is you are allowed to stream it. Like they won't, especially if you're a small channel. Like it's not a big deal at all. You can't make money on it. So if you're a channel who primarily streams PM, then you won't have access to a subscriber button even if you qualify for it. So you won't be able to make money off it. If you're a channel that is big enough to have a subscriber button and streams PM, I think it's pretty kind of judgment based. Like if the majority of what you're streaming is PM, then they might remove your sub button. But if you stream a whole bunch of things and then occasionally you play PM, I don't imagine it would be a big deal. So I think things like that where it's not quite clear if you're a PM streamer or just a streamer who happens to play PM might be on the fence. But as a rule of thumb, I wouldn't stream on Twitch and expect your channel to be removed, but I also wouldn't expect to have access to a sub button if you're a PM streamer. That's kind of how I would put it.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, I think.
I had to mute myself during that because my roommate fell over in his chair, and I was laughing.
Rip your roommate.
I didn't want to interrupt anything.
I'm proud.
I can respect
I'm back.
that.
Hope he's all right.
You're back just in time for the ending of the podcast, Flarp. Good job.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I hope waffeln edits that out.
Nah, he probably won't. I mean, the
Just
podcast
me,
is still
me
going.
laughing at him for like 2 minutes.
Oh no, that's fine. I don't know. Like your roommate's balance. All things must come to an end, and so does this podcast.
Sabre, did you want to talk at all about the combo video or the recap article before we close?
I will gladly pitch my own content. Okay. So, those of you who have been in the scene long enough, you'll remember that after the 2016 PMRank was released, there was another article posted on Smashboards, written, I think, largely by me.
You and Strongbad.
That was, yeah, Strongbad was basically between the two of us. It was basically recapping PMRank, going over regional distribution, character distribution, both in general and related to the tier list, the implications of PMRank for the next year's meta, regions we expected to see rise for the next year, things like that. And that got a lot of positive feedback. People seem to really enjoy that as a way of kind of reviewing what had happened, because there is a lot of content that comes out in a very short time span when PMRank is happening. And so we'll be doing that again. We'll also be doing another combo video. Last year we had a top 50 combo video. This year we'll be doing the same. However, I wouldn't hold your breath on those. Both of those things are being done by me. And I also am quite busy and have a lot of other obligations, both related to PM and real life.
Hashtag Sabre needs sleep.
I need some sleep. Sosa literally came up to me at a local on Friday, and he's like, "Hey, PMRank is done. Like, have you slept yet?" And I was like, "No." It's a hard life. But yeah, so it'll be happening. Keep an eye out for those, but also don't be too impatient. I'm doing my best, but things like that take a while, especially when I'm trying to make sure that they're as high quality as the people who were on PMRank deserve, because I do want to do my best to kind of recognize those people. And that means that things like this will take a while. So I'm doing my best, but I would keep an eye out for them at some point in the next month.
Alright, so I think that's about everything
Yeah.
we want to go over.
I'd say so.
What we thought was going to be a shorter podcast has now been our longest one yet.
we can talk about PMRank for quite some time. It was like a 5-month endeavor.
We spent the time on it, yeah.
Yeah. So, on that note, I've been Flarp.
I've been Motobug.
I'm still flashing fire.
I have been Sabre.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.